All right, team, we are here with the mayor of Georgetown, Josh Schrader. Good old Texas boy. Good to have you in today, sir.
Thank y'all for having me. Appreciate it.
Man, so as a former guy who used to live in Georgetown, my wife and I will tell you that town has been a true beacon of like what a good old school Main Street town can do. And I think folks think of it being, small towns being sleepy and uninteresting. Y'all crack the code. Like, it's as interesting and as vibrant and a lot going on as Austin, Texas, while also maintaining that like earthy, grounded values. It's just a cool town to be in. I'm stoked to get into all of that and glad to have you here today.
Yeah, thanks. And yeah, this time of year is probably the best time of year to be in Georgetown, Texas. It's kind of that Mayberry time of year. The whole square is lit up for Christmas. It's like a Hallmark movie.
Yeah.
We've had the lighting of the square in the last couple of weeks, and I'm fortunate. My office is downtown on the square, so every evening I'm leaving the office late at night and kind of, sad about having to work so many hours, but that square is all lit up with all the Christmas lights and people walking around with, packages of Christmas presents. It makes it pretty hard to be in a bad mood.
Yeah, man. It's a sight to see for folks who are in Texas right now. If you can make yourself out to Georgetown, I promise you will leave happier than when you got there.
Amen.
It's just a good place.
Give us some sales tax dollars too while you're there.
Yeah, we can always count on that. Well, we have this new ritual we've been kicking off with where our community of owners and people who are aspiring to be owners send a question in. And so we got one we'll kick off with, and then we'll get into the rest of the show here. But we got Tori Clark, actually from the Georgetown area.
Yeah, I think I know Tori.
Yeah, she owns Spa Lux up there. Yeah,
absolutely.
Good people. She's an absolute just good human and good owner. And so I'll kick off a question. It should be near and dear to your heart because it's very Georgetown based, and I'll read exactly how it came out. It says, Georgetown has such a warm and engaging community. From your perspective, what can small business do to best support the city's growth and strengthen the culture that we're all invested in so that everyone who lives here and works here continues to thrive?
Yeah, man, that's a great question. And what I would tell you is, so I moved back to Georgetown, Texas in 2007, went to work for a law firm in Georgetown, Sneed, Vine, and Perry. And our law firm's been in Austin for 100 years. Next year will be our 100th year. And we've been in Georgetown for 36 years. And so the day I got to town, the law partner that I went to work for said, first thing we're doing is we're going to lunch at Rotary. So we went to the downtown Rotary Club. And then he said, first thing we're doing after work today is we're going to the Chamber of Commerce networking event after that. And then he said, and tomorrow morning, you're going to join the Partners in Education nonprofit board. And then when the fall rolls around, you're going to take a Leadership Georgetown class, kind of like the Austin Leadership class here. And what he told me is in Georgetown, if you're going to do business in Georgetown, Texas, we don't just take from the community, we give to the community. And that's not just because, we do that for business reasons and you got to do that to make money in the town. That's just the culture of this town. And that wasn't just something he said, that was true.
That was day one, huh?
It was day one. That was all day one. And that was it. And so from day one, it was about being involved in the community. And the great thing about it was it worked. It was a way for, a young lawyer who'd never had a client in his entire life to meet people and get to know people in a way that just would not have been possible even in Austin or Dallas. We moved, my wife and I moved from Dallas, and I could not wait to get out of Dallas and could not have imagined building a law practice in Dallas, Texas in the same way. And the other great thing that happened was when I moved back to Georgetown, I was 32 years old, and there was a generation of folks above me that had been working their tail off in the community for a long time. And there were a group of young folks about my age that had all kind of moved back to town about the same time. And those old guys said, hey, we're tired. We're tired of running the chamber golf tournament. We're tired of running the Partners in Education board. It's y'all's turn. And so there was never this, kind of, hey, you guys wait your turn and then y'all can be on city council and y'all can be, running the Rotary Club. It was the exact opposite. It was like, hey, here's the baton. You guys take it and run with it. But they also stayed and supported us. And that's always kind of been the culture of Georgetown, which is very unique. At that exact same time, you know, if you go look at like what was going on in Round Rock, Cedar Park, Leander, very similar communities, they were having this huge like generational battle over like, no, you guys wait your turn.
Oh, very turfy, hun, protected.
Yeah, and not in the political world, in the business world. And so we were just blessed to have kind of that generation above us that set the example for us. And so, you know, hopefully we're trying to do that same thing. Now I'm an old man, you know, turn 50 next summer. And so hopefully we can kind of set that same example for people like Tori, that generation. Tori's a young up and comer. She's still young and spry. But is doing that same thing. I mean, I think I see her at every single event, community event.
Yeah.
And because of that, everyone knows who she is. Everyone knows who her business is, and is going to go patronize that business because you want to do business with people that you know, that you trust, that you see in the community. And so, you know, while we're growing as fast as we're growing, you still have that small town charm, that small town feel, and that you can, you know, still interact with people on a day-to-day basis. That's a whole lot harder to do in a big city.
Yeah, no, it's killer. So, I mean, getting involved. What would you tell an owner out there that says, man, Mayor, like, but I ain't have time. I got to run this business, right? Like, what do you do to make time, or what do you tell somebody?
You don't have time not to.
You don't have time not to.
You know, we've got. We went from, I was the second attorney in the Georgetown office. Now we're up to about 12 attorneys. And I tell young associates when they come in who are, you know, attorneys work by the billable hour. And so if we're not at our desk billing hours, we're not making money. And so you get in this trap, like all business owners. I got to be there. I got to be working. I got to be working. But, you know, if you're not out getting the business, there's no work to do. And so you've got to be out in the community. And that's the great thing about Georgetown is there is no substitute for literally being out in the community. And there's still so many community events to be at. Chamber of Commerce, Rotary, you know, the school district has events all the time. And so you're accomplishing two things at once. One, you're actually, you know, investing your time in the community. You're out there, you know, I tell people all the time, when you're at a education foundation fundraiser and you're picking up trash alongside one of your fellow small business owners, you've forged a bond that is not going to be broken. And you've gotten to know someone in a way that, you know, you have fast forwarded that relationship in a way that's hard to do outside of that event. And so, you know, there's no marketing dollars that you can substitute for that.
Makes a ton of sense. You don't have time not to. Hey, y'all, quick break. Here at American Operator, we believe that small business is the backbone of this country. But more and more, Main Street's getting swallowed up by big corporations, Wall Street, or some of them are just shutting down. And if you've ever thought about building something of your own, or just being a part of saving the American dream, head on over to AmericanOperator.com. It's your one-stop shop for inspiration, stories, and you'll get to join this really great community of patriots that believe our country is still worth fighting for. All right, back to the show. Tell me about, Josh, how you grew up. I mean, obviously Taylor, Texas is home. You just mentioned that, but tell me about what was life like growing up in the Lone Star State.
Yeah, so I grew up in Taylor, Texas, son of a football coach and a teacher. My dad coached football for 54 years.
Wow.
Is still teaching, but not coaching. Finally got him to retire from coaching after 54 years. Mom is still teaching as well, and they've slowed down a little bit, but not much. But
in Taylor,
their dad's in Thrall and mom's in Thorndale, but in the area there. And dad left and went off to West Texas for a while. Was a college football coach out at Sul Ross out in Alpine, and he was out there coaching, and then has moved back to town recently. But yeah, great life growing up as a coach's kid, teacher's kid. You know, couldn't hide from them. Every time I got in trouble, they found out 5 minutes later. And you know, both sets of grandparents in town, and just kind of had that, you know, very very idyllic childhood, and loved that. and left there, went down to San Antonio for 1 year to Trinity, and then transferred to UT and finished up my undergrad there. Met my wife there. Fortunate to meet her there, and then went to law school. She taught bilingual kindergarten here in East Austin to put me through law school, which I'm forever grateful for. And got out of law school, and then we moved around a bunch. I kind of spent the first few years out of law school trying to get as much experience as I could. I worked for a law firm in Dallas, and then I did 2 judicial clerkships for federal judges down in Brownsville, and then one back here in Austin, then did another stint in Dallas, and then made it back to Georgetown. I had family in Georgetown as well. My uncle was actually mayor of Georgetown in the 1980s.
Is that right?
Yeah. He was actually much younger. He got elected mayor at age 32.
Get out of here, man.
Yeah.
Did you start to smell at all that maybe this might be for me, or you?
No. Yeah, the whole story of kind of how I ended up mayor is I had no desire. The story is I tried to talk 7 other people into doing it, and they wouldn't do it. And I drew the short straw. And my uncle was in the back goading me to do it, and I kept telling him, "Why don't you do it? You're still young enough to do it." But no, he was. It was an interesting time when he got elected. Georgetown was still, a small town, and he and a young group of folks that were living in the community there in the 80s. Georgetown was going through this period of very, very anti-growth, and the whole community was, very much adamant that they were not going to grow, didn't want any more businesses, didn't want any more people. And you had this whole group of, 30 some odd, that had kids and businesses, and were like, hey, we want to grow. And so the year he got elected, it was a 32-year-old, a 30-year-old, a 34-year-old. They took over city council.
Wow, man.
And
it's like they had to do something, right? Fresh blood or something.
They did, and changed the entire trajectory of the town. And so it's been an interesting perspective as I got elected and as Georgetown has exploded in growth, and, people understandably get upset about that and all the the stress that comes with growth. That generation, above me, those guys have come and said, "Hey, we put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to make this town grow." There were 30 years when we were doing everything we could to get a single business to open, to get another job into this town. And so for folks now to look back and go, oh, goodness, we're griping about having too many jobs in this town. Like, tell them to come back to 1984 when every bank was failing, when the square was boarded up, when people were losing their homes, going bankrupt. We don't get to choose all the time to have the perfect amount of growth, the perfect amount of economic, development. There are bad sides to this thing too. And so it can go sideways real fast. And so let's count our blessings.
Yeah. Well, before mayor, why law? I'm just curious, why become an attorney?
Because I had no other skills whatsoever.
So you went to the dark side for a little bit and get schooled up there.
So I was a history. My major was history. My minor was African American studies. My brother's 3 years older than me. He was also a history major, got his teaching certificate. My dad forbid us from going into coaching. My brother disobeyed and went and coached out in Dripping Springs for 3 years. And this is great. So his third year coaching, he was coaching baseball, and they made the state tournament, Dripping Springs, lost in the state tournament. And my brother did the math, and he made $1.14 an hour coaching. And so decided that maybe
even back then it wasn't that much money.
Yeah. So that was probably not going to be the long-term plan for him. And my dad said, "I told you so." Even though he's a coaching addict, he's like, it's a whole different profession now. And so my brother and I went back to law school at the same time together.
Really?
Yeah, he's 3 years older, so I was getting out of undergrad, and we went back to law school at the same time. He went to Baylor, I went to UT, but we were going at the same time. And really was kind of coming out, and I didn't know whether I wanted to be, teach maybe on the college level or something like that. I loved history and reading and writing, and so I was, I don't know what else I'm gonna do with those skills besides law school. So let's go to law school and give it a shot.
See what you got.
Yeah.
Did you like it? Was it a good call for you?
Oh, I loved it. I loved it. Law
Yeah.
school was an absolute blast. All these people that talk about, the stress and horrors of law school, I loved it. I loved it.
What about it? What was it that?
Oh, I love arguing, as my wife will tell you. I can argue with the wall, and I enjoy it. Like, it's not even, I don't get angry. I don't it's just fun.
It's like racquetball for you. Huh?
Yeah.
Just
Give
go.
me a topic we can argue about. I mean, you get me going on college football or books or movies, and I can go all day. And she likes to remind me that other people don't enjoy it as much as you do. And my brother and I too, same thing. She's like, we get together over the holidays and just find a topic, and we'll
It's just a racket.
We'll get rolling on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and UT's very much geared towards that Socratic method, and it's that's the entire point. Teach you how to think, teach you how to argue, teach you how to read and write. Which I tell people all the time. I don't care if you want to be a lawyer or not. Law school is a great. It's just a great environment, great way to learn. Any business owner, I'd tell you, go.
Yeah. I had a friend of mine who went to law school, and he said, and he said it in the most esteemed and respectful way he can. He goes, but man, it's almost like learning a trade, is what he told me. And I was like, what do you mean by that? And he goes, I know it doesn't sound that way. He goes, but like now I have these tools in my brain that I didn't know how to use, and now I know how to use them. Does that resonate?
That is exactly right. Some of the best lawyers and business people I know are people that have taken their legal skills and used them in the business world. And some of the best lawyers I know are folks that have worked in the business world and taken those skills and brought them to the legal world. Because I just, it teaches you a different way to think is the best way to put it. This analytical thinking, and it's not that other people can't do it. It really is. It's just a skill set that until you've kind of been exposed to this way of thinking and trained to do it, you just don't do it until you've gone through that process.
Yeah, no, helpful to us and folks that I know that have that. I'm always been impressed the way they can break something down, be objective about it, and kind of bring folks along to the solution. That's the hardest part that I think for a lot of business owners is just trying to get folks to think, come along.
Yes, yeah. That advocacy component to it. That it is somewhat. It's arguing, but it's hey, I've got to convince you to get from point A to point B.
That's right.
In a way that it's not, it's not bullying, it's not lying, it's not. I've got to genuinely get you. So I've got to walk you through the steps.
Yeah.
In a convincing manner to get you there, and the ones that can do it well, they succeed.
They succeed. What's a mayor? What's a mayor do?
Well, in our system, it's interesting. So Georgetown and most of the cities in Texas are set up in what's called a city manager managed system, which is a very, very good thing because politicians are not good at running anything. So cities are normally run by a city manager, and the best way to think of it is kind of board of directors and CEO. And so the city manager is kind of the CEO. And the CEO runs day-to-day operations, and then the board is up here, running policy and strategy. And so our city, we literally have the best city manager in the state of Texas. He just won the award for that.
Oh, did he?
David Morgan. And so David runs day-to-day operations, and then our council mayor system is set up where we have 7 districts within the city. And they're geographical districts within the city. Each of those districts elects a council person, and then the mayor is elected citywide. And then the council people are the only ones that actually vote when we have a matter that comes before council. The mayor truly acts as just kind of the moderator of those meetings, which is another great thing. So I tell people all the time, I am powerless, and that's exactly how you want it, because it really does allow for the mayor to moderate and create an environment where we can have truly vigorous civil debate, where the moderator doesn't have his thumb on the scale and doesn't have, doesn't have a say in the outcome of how it's going to go. And so I'm truly up there just trying to create, okay, councilperson X has said, made this argument. I heard councilperson Y say this. This guy over here thinks, somewhere in between those two. Now you flesh out what you said there. Now this person, now hold on a second. This person is saying this. And if you watch our council meetings, you see that truly does happen. And we've got an environment where, our council, and part of that is because we have great council people who all have a very unified vision of, what they want Georgetown to be, and are just great people. And so they can do this. But there'll be a 5-2 vote on this matter, and then the next matter will be, 4-3, completely different people. And then you'll see, two people just adamantly disagree on something. And then the next item, they're joined at the hip and disagreeing with everybody else. And then my favorite thing is, and then you watch, and in between, everybody's laughing, joking, making fun of each other, making fun of the city manager, making fun of whoever is at the dais. It's just this very collegial atmosphere that we have. But part of that is because, we've got this system, that creates that structure and that environment. And then the other thing, the other role that the mayor has is my job is to kind of interact one-on-one with the city manager to help, create the agenda for the council, and then to, act on as the spokesperson for the city, and the spokesperson for council. So I've got to do a lot of the, dealing with, third parties, whether it's economic development, or dealing with the state legislature, which is a whole other ball of wax. And so those types of things where it's usually me that's speaking kind of for the city, but I'm always representing the city's viewpoint, not my viewpoint.
It's good kind. And for those for the folks sitting on the council there, how have you seen them stay in touch with their districts? Like, how are they not just making sure they're just personal opinions coming out?
Yeah. It's nowadays it's interesting. It's easy and it's hard. It's easy in the sense that we've got all this social media and we've got all this technology that allows you to, push stuff out and also receive feedback. But it's also really, really hard to determine how valid any of that is. You feel like you're doing a lot of communication because you're, posting stuff on, 20 different platforms. And so you're like, man, I'm doing a lot. And then you talk to somebody and you're like, well, I posted on 5 different platforms. I sent out, a mass text message. I sent out a mailer, and then people are like, why don't you ever communicate with us? And you want to bang your head against the wall.
You need to respond.
Yeah. And then the flip side is, trying to validate what that communication back is and how accurate it is, because there is a lot of ways for people to talk back to you, whether it's through Facebook, through social media, through texting you. People, everybody in town has my cell phone. Yeah. It's insane. I have no idea, but they all have it. Although I do know I screwed up when I first started running for office, and you're signing up for Facebook and all this stuff, and I don't know how to do any of this stuff. And my cell phone ends up on Facebook.
On all those.
On everything. Yeah. So I'm getting calls left and right from everybody in the world. But you get a lot of feedback, but you don't know whether, most of the time the people talking the loudest don't necessarily represent the viewpoint of the masses. They're right. Just the people that talk the loudest. And so it's really hard as an elected official to kind of parse through that and go, all right, well, what do people actually think? Because, the average folks, the average small business owner and, a mother and father of kids that gets up in the morning, goes to work, and does their business and takes care of their kids and goes home at night and is pretty pleased with how things are going on, never talks to their elected official.
Yeah.
And
get their head down and moving.
Perfectly happy with how things are going on, and you're never going to hear from them. And so their voice never gets heard. And so it's difficult, but you got to kind of go through that. It's super interesting though to watch from even kind of from the outside. If I've seen it happen where you're watching a city council race, and if you went and looked at Facebook or Nextdoor, you'd be like, oh my gosh, this is going to be, this guy's going to lose 90-10. And come to find out, he won 90-10. And so, it really does shed some light on, how valid social media is in the public's, actual sentiment.
Yeah, you got to go get your hand on the pulse in order to go see it. I think it's what you said before. I think that probably, about like you can't afford not to. I think it's the same thing with just your average citizen out there. Just like go get involved. And I think it's probably I don't know what it is. Even for myself, a couple years back, I started to I don't know, it's just like the way God made us or whatever. Like you start to just like, at a certain point in life, you start to care about different things. Beforehand, just like didn't even hit your radar. It wasn't even like negligence or didn't care. It just like didn't even hit your radar as I should care. And all of a sudden, you see something in your community impact, and it just pisses you off.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's just a timing thing or what. Have you noticed personal patterns?
And I think it's unfortunately it's usually something that pisses you off. But what's great is, and I've seen this, is where for good folks, it'll be something that pisses them off and that gets them, hey, I need to go, what's going on here? And they'll go get engaged. And I've seen it so many times where they go get engaged, and I've had it where they'll call me, I don't want to talk to you about that. And you go sit down with them, and 15 minutes later, like, oh, okay, I got it. I see what's going on. Oh, and by the way, how can I get involved now? And now that I'm engaged and involved, and I see that like there's this other world, now I want to go like, how can I help? Because those are the type of people that do. Like, once they see that there's, it's the same thing. Nobody gets involved in PTA until they got kids in elementary school.
Yeah.
Then they see that there's this need, and boom, that's the next 10 years of their life. That's my wife. Is PTA president, and then she won't be the minute the kids are, then that phase of life is over, and that's great. That's what you do. But a lot of folks are that same way with their local government is, they're not involved, then all of a sudden something happens and they get involved. But it can be a good things too. Like, and what's great thing about like our downtown, folks come down there and they see, hey, this is amazing. What's going on? How can I help? And man, there are lots of ways. There are lots of ways you can help. And we got all these boards and commissions and stuff. And then people get involved and they get passionate about it, and boom, they're in.
Fired up. Before we jump off the mayor topic here, because I want to talk about Georgetown and a couple other things. You do not strike me as a very standard, typical mayor politician type. Two things stick out of my brain. One, the way you dress right now, for people who can't see, it look like you just came off the ranch, right? Which is cool. I mean, literally, the boots are messed up, man.
These are especially messy today.
No, I like it. It's great. And then the other thing is, anytime I've had a chance just to catch up with you, I don't feel like you're talking around me. It's always just, even the way we're having a convo right now. And I sure as heck wouldn't have thought you were an attorney or, law trained or whatever you want to call it. Where's that from? Why is it that way? And it's obviously working. Folks in Georgetown seem to really talk highly of you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, one, like I said, I never had any intention of being a politician, and don't have any intention of doing anything else. So I think that helps in the sense that I don't care about, anything beyond this. And
this is not a stepping stone for you.
No, not at all. And I understand folks that are trying to maneuver up, and we need good folks to maneuver up, and God bless them for doing it, because it's a hard life. And it is hard to have to navigate and go, well, if I got to say this or do this because these people are going to do that. And yeah, there's part of it. You just got to do that. And so I'm blessed with the fact that I don't have to, the mayor's role is a nonpartisan role. So I don't have to play the party politics, which is huge. And I'd probably be unelectable by either party if I had to play that, which is fine with me. But, so that's part of it. The other part is, I think I found that just leading with when you got bad news, just lead with it. and tell people the truth works a whole lot better than trying to, snow them under. Like, it just doesn't work. People are smart. They figure it out real quick. And, I've just kind of found in my life, if you just, tell them you're sorry first and tell them what's wrong and tell them how you're going to fix it, that's probably the best way to get through something. And that's just kind of how I was raised. Same, that's my parents taught me that is, just be upfront and honest and do it. So yeah, that's my mentality at least. And yeah, I'm running one more time for mayor and then I'm done.
Okay.
And so having that mentality is great too, that, I've only got to get elected one more time. And so, if I can just not tick anybody off too bad until next May. And then the other part of it too, though, that really is that, my mentality is there's a former mayor of Georgetown, love this guy, he's a former banker in Georgetown, Gary Nealon. I've told him this, saw him the other day. Gary Nealon could be walking down the street in Georgetown, Texas, and nobody would know who he is. Nobody would know that he was mayor. And I was like, that is the most, and he did so many great things for Georgetown. And I was like, that's the ideal, is that you can get done with this and never be on the front page, but have done, have set the stage
Good
for,
work.
And that's what I love. I love the idea of, we're working on some stuff right now that is going to have, 50, 100-year impacts. And I'm thrilled of the idea that 50 years from now, somebody's going to be set up and in a good place because we did something today. And I'm perfectly happy that no one knows that I did it. But that's this type of stuff that excites. I love like the nitty gritty details. That's what excites me because that's where the real work's done. The work's not done on the headlines. It's just not. You go look at back 50 years in Georgetown. It's the stupid, boring stuff that nobody really knows or cares about. It's not the groundbreakings with the shovels. It's that some guy decided, hey, we should sign this contract or we should do this, and that's why we're here today. And so that's the stuff that excites me.
Yeah, you can tell you're into the work, and if it happens to be that I got to be mayor for a little bit to go make that happen, sure.
Yeah.
But I'll go do it.
Yeah.
I think we'd all probably live a little bit happier doing it that way. It's kind of an released from any expectation, more just about your own personal sense of duty almost.
Yeah. I mean that's and I think that's the way it has to be. I've always told people, you don't want anybody doing this job that wants to do it. Anybody that feels like they deserve it or they need to do it, you do not want doing it. I think that's any role in politics.
Yeah, you got to be almost a reluctant, and I think it works. Why is Georgetown so special? Maybe the two-sided answer on that I'm looking for is maybe for folks who don't know, but for folks who do know, it is a unique place, and not just the way it feels and the way it is and the way that you can, but it is iconically Main Street America. I mean, it is just kind of what you think of a storybook. Why is it that way? I know some guys set some, big folks beforehand set the groundwork. But folks who don't know, Mayor, what makes it so special?
Yeah, we're blessed in a lot of ways, geographically, extremely blessed to be, as much as everybody in Georgetown likes to bag on Austin, Texas, and believe me, we do. We are very, very blessed to be located exactly where we were located in relation to Austin. Just close enough, just far enough. We've never been a suburb of Austin. We've always been just far enough away at the right time in history that we kind of had to be our own thing as Austin was growing. We were just far enough away that, Pflugerville and Round Rock were the suburb bedroom communities. And nobody wanted to live in Georgetown and commute to Austin when Austin was booming at that time. So we kind of had to have our own thing going on. And then when, Georgetown and Pflugerville really started booming, as much as I, disagreed with it, that Georgetown kind of had this no growth mentality. And so all that growth stayed in Pflugerville and Round Rock. So again, Georgetown kind of stayed isolated during that period where it could have turned into a bedroom community. And so we kind of had to be our own thing. And then, being the county seat, that's a huge part of it. We're blessed with this downtown square, which is different than a main street, which is different than, any other community. And there's lots of town squares and, county seat squares in the state of Texas. But again, we're right close to Austin, which is hugely helpful. We're on I-35, which is hugely helpful. That's the difference between us and Lockhart's a beautiful town square. Love it to death, and it's going to explode. It's already exploding, but it's not on 35. And so we've got that blessing. Then we got 10, 15 years ago, or almost 20 years ago now, we got 130. So 130 comes up the east side and can explain the impact that had on Georgetown over the last 15 years, being another transportation node where, then all of this, industry started following. And then, man, I'm telling you, so we were growing from 2007 to 2015. We're growing 3-4% a year, and then we start going 6% a year, and things are humming pretty good. And then COVID hits, and I'll never forget. So I got elected right in the middle of COVID, 2020, and called the city manager up, and all the developers and builders in town were blowing up my phone and going, "Hey, if y'all shut this thing down, we all go bankrupt. We got houses on the ground, halfway finished. If y'all shut down the building industry like they were doing here in Austin, we all go bankrupt. And if y'all shut down the planning department, the permitting department, the inspections department, we're going under." And called the city manager, and he said, "You tell them to get out there, keep going. Tell them they need an inspection to call us. We're going to be out there. You tell them the planning department may not be in the office, but they're going to keep going. The permitting department's going to keep going. Let's roll."
Wow.
And we did. And I mean, I think Georgetown, Texas was shut down for about 36 hours, and then we forgot about COVID. And we kept rolling.
Yeah.
And that coming out of and in the middle of COVID, it just exploded. And then again, as much as we want to, bag on Austin, Elon coming, that was this boom. And then the Samsung deal in Taylor, another boom. And so we start growing in 21, 22, and 23, fastest growing city in the United States 3 years in a row. In 23, we're the fastest growing city, only behind Fort Worth in pure numbers.
Yeah.
And it just starts getting crazy. And here's what I tell people too, and I try not to tell people this that are too worried about growth. It hadn't even started. It has not even started. When you look at the Tesla, Samsung, and everything that is happening now with the server industry moving into this area, the best explanation I can give is it's what I would say California in the 1950s is where we're at. And then everything that happened there over the last 70 years is about to happen here.
It's about to happen here. Do you take me back to you just took over, mayor now. You had to make a decision on this COVID thing. I'm curious what going through your head about how you make the right call there. Because I think that's something that's not, a lot of folks would have hesitated and said no and would have just taken the more risk-averse route.
Yeah, I was extremely blessed. So I start running in January of 2020. Mm-hmm. Election was supposed to be in May of 2020. The governor cancels the elections. So local elections are in May, and governor cancels the elections. So which had raised a bunch of money, spent a bunch of money. 2 weeks before early voting starts, he cancels the elections, moves them to November. So my predecessor had to make all the hard decisions.
Okay.
And I've got a lot of grace though for all the folks that were having to make those very, very difficult decisions, from the mayors to the county judges to the governors to the president. I can't imagine sitting in a room with people that are telling you, millions of people are going to die. And, I get it 100%. Our mayor took a very, very, more relaxed approach to it and said, hey, we're going to let people take care of themselves. And we had orders in place, but they were, much different than what was going on in Austin and Travis County. So when I came into office, all I had to do was allow the existing orders, which were already very lax, to expire. So I was set up in a pretty easy position, honestly.
Yeah, I imagine those still even with your predecessor and you, I imagine just kind of the mental jujitsu that goes in there. I mean, you can game theory yourself in and out of this thing all day long. Do you find, just from like a leadership perspective, even decisions you made after sitting in the seat, do you have a certain thing you gravitate to that just kind of grounds you in the right call, even if it isn't, you don't have all the facts?
Yeah. I mean, the humility. Really, honestly, we had best example I can give. So we had the very controversial before I was elected in Georgetown. We had this issue with our electric utility. And our electric utility signed some contracts, and there are these green energy contracts where our electric utility went 100% green energy. And we were touting that we were, a Republican city who had gone green energy, and it made us real, real famous. I mean, we were all over the map. We were in Al Gore's sequel to, his movie, and it was a big deal. Well, come to find out, those were really bad contracts. We were losing $30 million a year, and it was bad. And so not only was all that happening, we were also had a bunch of egg on our face that we were out there, touting how smart we were, and, that we were going to revolutionize how, city utilities were run. And so when I came into office, which is one of the reasons that I came into office, was because that debacle had happened. I had the mentality of, hey, we've got to approach, and the folks that made the decision who at that time to sign those contracts thought they were making the best decision they could make with the information in front of them at the time. It was a very complex decision, but after that decision was made, there wasn't a whole lot of humility in how that decision was, rolled out to the world and how it was handled. And then when it was alleged that maybe that wasn't the best decision, there wasn't a lot of humility. There was a lot of defensiveness and a lot of, defending of it. And so that really was a lesson for me in how things should not be handled. And so the lesson that I learned was, hey, look, when we're going to make a difficult decision, and we're right now in the process of making one of the most important and difficult decisions in the history of the city of Georgetown, our long-term water solution for the city. And it's a hard one. And it is the thing that keeps me up all night, every night. And there's not a right answer. There are multiple difficult answers. But as I've told everybody in the community every time I can, we're going to make the best decision we can with the information in front of us. I can't guarantee you it's going to be right. I can guarantee you that, we are agonizing over it. We're listening to every expert that we can, but we're going to make the best decision we can. If it turns out not to be right, we're going to come tell you we screwed up. And we're going to come to you with a plan to mitigate it the best that we can. And if we screwed it up real bad, you should vote us all out of office and not let us into leadership positions ever again. And that's honestly the best that we can do, and our city manager would tell you the exact same thing. He's like, that's part of being in leadership, is that, if you screw it up really, really bad, you don't get to be in leadership anymore. And that's part of the consequences for your actions. And we all signed on to that when we stepped into the leadership role. But it's also our job to go, to make sure that we are, taking care of the folks that we signed up to lead. and that, you know, we've got to go, if we screw up, the best way to fix that is to expose the fact that something has gone wrong. Now let's bring in folks to help us fix this.
Yeah, as you're talking about that, Mayor, a couple thoughts go through my head. It's going back to probably your father coaching. It's very akin to sports and stuff. It's like you when you raise your hand to sign up for the game of leadership, and it's not a game, but let's just say the path that you're on. I think the part we always forget, and whether it's business ownership or leadership or whatever, the consequence to it of not doing well or failing. I think a lot of folks take it with emotion, which I think helps on the passion side. Like, it's great that folks care. But it also, I don't know that they give themselves also enough grace that, like, it's also just the objective consequence of what happens when you don't. Like, you could still be a good person and fail and not be in leadership anymore. And that's just, you played the game, man. That's just what happens.
Coaches get fired.
Yeah, coaches get fired. Teams don't make it to the Super Bowl. Like,
that's what my dad said.
Yeah.
Coaches end up two ways. You retire or get fired. That's the only two ways you leave.
Yeah. And so I think that's kind of where I can tell a lot of folks don't always jump into leadership or jump into helping their community and stuff, because I think of that failure thing. I know you just articulated a little bit of like, hey, look, I didn't really want to do it, but I'm doing it here. I'm going to do the best I can, and we'll see what it is. Any other like insights you'd give folks that are just on that fence, like they're the right folks to step in the arena and at least try, but they won't? What would you tell them?
Yeah. Well, one thing too that I would say too that you bring up a real good point on, kind of translate into small businesses. You got to create that environment in your organization too, and that's one thing that we really try to cultivate in the city is you got to push that same culture down and go, hey, if you've screwed up, come tell us, and you know, we're going to take care of the problem. Now, yeah, there may be a screw ups that are so bad that, hey, you got to go.
Yeah.
But the best thing you can do is come tell us that you screwed up and let's go try to fix it. Because as we say all the time, and this has happened, I've seen this happen numerous times over the last 5 years, where coming in and telling us you've screwed up builds so much trust that you know, you are now the most valued employee in that, you know, in that department, because you raised your hand and go, hey, we messed up, you know, we messed up. Here's what happened. Here's how we're going to keep it from happening again. And, you know, we're sorry. And making it very public. And boom, that person is now on a path to leadership that you know, we didn't even know who they were beforehand, and now boom, they're headed towards department leadership because of that. And so yeah, I think creating that environment in your organization is huge.
A surefire way to get fired is not say something, I find out, and then you're gone, man. Yeah, at least the other way around. What do you, speaking of just kind of the way culture and people are, when you think about like we talk a lot about it, especially in the last 15 or so years, maybe even 20, big tech, big companies, that's all good. It's really the American dream on steroids, right? Like, it's just this cool thing to see. But the culture of small Main Street America towns, right, whether it's the businesses on the square or even the small manufacturing plant just outside of, you know, one of the offshoots on 130 or whatever, I innately know they're important. I know you do too. What about Main Street America are you hopeful about? Because I do think there's a lot of rhetoric out there that's just, hey, if you're not part of one of the big ones, work for one of the big ones or whatever, good luck. I obviously think that you don't find that to be true. What are the things that keep you hopeful about those small business America?
Man, I think that the most hopeful thing for me is that the young people get it, man. I think the generation, my kids and the folks in their 20s, I think they get it 100. I feel sorry for the Googles of the world and the Metas of the world. They're not gonna, those kids, it's gonna be real tough for Google and to hire those kids.
They ain't coming,
because they're literally going out and trying to find the plumbing shops. The number of kids in my day job, you know, representing small business owners, that, you know, a generation ago, those kids would have been looking to go to work for Deloitte or go to work for, you know, Google. Now they're like, no, Mom and Dad, can I please come back and run the drywall business?
Yeah.
They get it. You know, I've got a client whose son went off, and sharp kid, went off to law school, got the law degree, could have gone to work for, you know, major law firm in New York, and came back and, no, let me be an estimator in the drywall business.
Is that right?
And work my way up, and now he's going to be he's going to take it over and be the CEO of the drywall company.
What do you think clicks for them? What's in their brain that's different, you think?
Man, one, I think that those folks, I don't know what happened that they saw that sitting in a cubicle is the worst thing in the world, that they got it, way before other people, our generation maybe didn't get it. I got a buddy that I graduated college with that he went and bought a bunch of Sonic franchises down in Florida. And he came back and was, he was in his 30s at that point, and he came back and was recruiting at UT out of the business school to try to get regional managers for a Sonic. And he's like, look, you can come out of business school, 22 years old. I need regional managers. You're going to make $150,000 a year running Sonics. He's like, now listen, you're gonna wear a shirt that has Sonic on it, and there may be some Saturday nights where you're flipping burgers and pouring drinks because somebody didn't show up. But is that, or do you want to go sit in a cubicle at Dell, 40 hours a week staring at a screen? And he's like, and this was, in the early 2000s, he's like, I couldn't find a single person to come work for me.
Nobody raised their hand. Yeah. Everybody's climbing the ladder somewhere, right?
Yeah, no, got to go Dell, got to go work my way up. Nothing against Dell, and I don't think that's the case anymore. I think those kids are like, no, I'd rather go do that. I'd rather be flipping burgers, If that's the path because I'm going to go own my own Sonics in one day, I really do see that happening across the country.
Yeah, you see it everywhere, and I think it kind of goes back to this kind of core DNA as we are as just like as Americans, like that sense of agency and that sense of just like
it's coming back.
Hey, if I fail, I want it to be my fault. If I win, I want it to be my fault. Like those are the things that for some reason or another you lose. And I had a gentleman on here the other day, Matt, who he was talking. He could have continued to be very successful in the corporate world. He now owns and runs Eco Air here in Austin.
Yeah,
and I asked him what the thing he's most excited about. And he said two things that just like, I don't think I could have captured it any better. He goes, one, man, it's all on me now. He goes, and I thank God I married into a family that his father-in-law is a longtime business owner out of Taylor, actually. He says, and he just told me how much freedom that is, believe it or not. He goes, carrying that backpack. He goes, but the other thing that I never had a chance to do before, he goes, my kids run around my business now. Yep. He goes, where I wasn't taking them to the office. He goes, it might have gone to a Christmas party. He goes, but man, I can't put a price on how cool it is to see the girls running around, even for just during lunch. Mom brings by whatever, all the texts saying hi to them, and then they run out, and then I go, whatever. He says, I can't put a price on that, but it sure is heck of a lot more than you could pay me when I, was doing what I was doing. And I think that's stuff that don't always make it into the rhetoric.
1,000%. I mean, so my dad being a football coach, folks don't realize how much coaches work. I mean, during football season, it's 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. on, that's Monday through Thursday. Friday nights, it's, 2 a.m. coming back from the football game, doing laundry before you go home, back up there 6 a.m. Sunday night still. That's all football season. But my brother and I were standing there right next to him the entire time and thought it was the greatest thing that had ever happened. I slept on a yellow bus better than I've ever slept in my entire life. And that was just, it wasn't even, for us, we didn't even register that Dad was at work. Like that was just life. And, the idea that you ain't doing that if Dad's a partner at a law firm. No. He could be working the exact same hours, but, never see him. We spent more time with him, than I guarantee you, than any kids have ever spent with, their parent. It was insane. And so, yeah, I agree 100% that small business owner and the ability to like, hey, Johnny's got, something at the elementary school today at 2:00. Yeah, I can walk out the door and go. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I may work till 8:00 tonight to cover for it, but that's my decision. And I will tell you, that's, we were talking about kids earlier. Number one thing I've told my kids is work for yourself. That is it, above all else. If you can work for yourself, prize that above money, above where you live, above what you're doing. You can figure out how to work for yourself. You've made it. Somebody said the other day, it was literally that. They're like, if you can go to your kids' stuff, elementary school in the afternoon, whatever you're doing in life, something's worked out.
That's a different measuring stick for success,
Yeah.
And And I think it's a human thing. It's like when your parents tell you not to touch the stove. You do it anyway. It's almost like you don't learn till you burn your hand. Fortunate for the younger generation coming up, they just, maybe it's through observation that it clicks. I agree with you. They just get it. For most of us, we kind of had to go climb that ladder, get beat up, get our soul sucked a little bit, and go like, this ain't feel right. Something's off here.
Yeah, and I think part of it too is that we kind of came up the traditional. Everybody had to go to college, go get the 4-year degree. Then the college career services are pushing you into all that stuff because all the college rating stuff is based upon you get out of college and you get a degree and it gets reported back, and we're all choosing our colleges based upon U.S. News and World Report. I think all that stuff's out the window. Nobody cares about that stuff anymore, you know? And so that has created a freedom for those kids when Elon won't even let you tell them where you went to college. It's changed the game on all that stuff. And my kid just graduated high school, and he's got kids that are graduating with him that can outcode anybody that graduated from Harvard last year. They don't need a college degree. They're gone. They're doing what they want to do the day they got walked off stage of graduation.
As we kind of round the bases here there, Mayor, one of the things I wanted to ask you about, I know just kind of watching you work and watching the council members work in the town, I know one thing right now that the blessing and the curse of growing so fast is, development. And I know state of Texas has, announced like, hey, we were going to allow folks to put more houses in a square acre and all that other kinds of stuff, which on its nose sounds great. I'm sure for the developers out there, sounds good to just be able to put more housing. People need it. You can get behind that. I'm sure water is a factor, but I'm sure a lot of other things are too. And just the general way a small town feels a certain way because it also is a certain way, not just because it's got a great square, but it's also just because you're not running into a bunch of multifamily homes everywhere you go. So I'm asking this or setting the stage, all this to say that how do you balance growth? Because I have the heart of the owner in my mind. There's a lot of owners that come here and sit in that chair, and they're always balancing growth with also balancing like what's really the right thing to do, which those things are sometimes in competition with each other. Us capitalists are very much like grow at all costs, but that's not always the right answer. Just want to get your thoughts on that. Like, how do you balance those two things, growth and also what's doing the right thing for my town, myself, my family, whatever that is?
Yeah, man, that's super interesting that you say that. And like, it just kind of clicked with me that this idea of like thinking about, the town like a business, and what comes to mind is, growth versus culture. And do you grow at the expense of culture? And you've seen it with businesses, and you grow too fast and you lose the culture, and then you lose the business. And it's the
almost always follows.
Yeah, exactly. And I'd never thought about it till you said that, but that's exactly what we're talking about when we talk about growth in the community. Is that what we're trying to do? And we we say this all the time, and it's so hard to we can articulate, we're going to grow in population size, but maintain small town community charm. And so that's really easy to say. Then you go, well, what does that mean? And then how do we put that into a policy that you can, enforce and enact? Well, what does that mean when you have a development code and permitting regulations? How does the rubber meet the road when you do that? And it's really, really tough to do. And so, what we're trying to do is when we say small town community charm, we think about things like, well, a lot of that does mean we want to encourage ownership. And so to the extent we can encourage owning a home versus renting a home. And there are some things we can do in our development code that helps that. To the extent we can encourage, more family, oriented homes. Yeah, we want to encourage that. Now, that's never going to be the sole type of, housing product that we have. We all lived in apartments in our life, and we got tons of apartments. We got
you have to sometimes,
tens of thousands of apartments in Georgetown, and happy to have that. And, we want places for teachers, policemen, firefighters, all those folks. But it's all about, trying to create, well, what is the theme that we're trying to create here? And when we think about, neighborhoods, well, what does a neighborhood look like when you think of a neighborhood that encourages that small town charm feel? Now, one thing I think is super interesting is that for a long time in America, we built neighborhoods that we thought did that. And there were these master plan subdivisions that were, these are the houses and they're in this row. And I tell people all the time that, that they live in these neighborhoods and they think that that's what a neighborhood should look like. And I was like, and then we all pay $10,000 every summer to go to Europe and walk around communities that don't look anything like that.
Yeah.
We go, oh, we want to walk around the corner to a coffee shop, and then there's a pizza place over here, and then there's a store over here, and the houses are all intermixed, and the house is above the coffee shop. And, so I think that's one of those things that's very much changing in our communities, is kind of a move back to what is actually the more traditional environment, which is a mixed use environment. An environment that is activated all day long, where you've got folks, a family business that is in a neighborhood, which is exactly which was for 2,000 years until we started creating these suburban neighborhoods. So we're really pushing back to that idea, the idea that, guess what? You can have a bakery, a coffee shop in a neighborhood, and that's a great and wonderful thing, and it can interact with the neighborhood. So stuff like that we're trying to push back, because again, those are the things that actually call back to that small town charm. And then the other is investing tons and tons of money, time, and effort into that downtown square, which, on some level is a symbolic gesture. Only a certain number of people can live in the downtown area. Yeah. Only a certain number of people can be downtown at a given time. But when you talk to people about why they love Georgetown, they may live 10 miles away from that downtown square. They may only go down there once a month. But having that as a cultural touch point for the community, it creates this bond. It creates this, we all love the square. We're all down there, as often as we can get down there. And it really does just create this environment that was still, this is Georgetown. This is Georgetown, and we love it. Versus, you see other communities where people this sour taste in their mouth about their community. They're always griping about everything. Everything's bad. If we could only get away from here. And you really just don't get that feel in Georgetown, and we're blessed to have that. Other thing too that I will say that I think is always huge in a community is the school district, and I think schools are what bring especially that age demographic together. People can rally behind the schools. If people love their school district, they love their community. Yeah. So that's one thing that I think that we've got to fight for, and we get into a whole other political discussion about how that's going in the state of Texas right now, but. I will say, as son of two public school teachers, when people are happy with their school district, especially in small towns, it's another one of those things that just bonds people together. And as my dad says, you got a winning football team, the community is together and united.
Is that what can someone do can the everyday human do to help the school district? School district seems like a really good first step.
Yeah, school district and city both. I can't convey enough how easy it is to get involved and how just a minor amount of involvement will make such a huge district. School district and city both have so many avenues to get involved. Committees, whether it's standing committees or ad hoc committees, school district's gonna, they're gonna have every 3 or 4 years gonna have a bond pack committee where, hey, we got to go decide what we're gonna build in terms of new schools and athletic facilities or whatever. Go volunteer for it, and they want your input. They're begging for your input, and you can have an impact as to where the next high school is gonna build, what it's gonna look like, how big it's gonna be. On the city side, we have 37 boards and commissions in the city of Georgetown. And that's everything from the Planning and Zoning Commission that decides where stuff's going to get built, to our Arts Commission that decides what statues are going to be on the square, to, we have a Library Commission, Parks Commission. Whatever your passion is, there is an avenue for you to engage with the city. And we're talking 1 hour a month. That is the
nothing.
commitment.
Yeah.
But the flip side to that is the impact that you will have. So choosing where the next park's going to be, You know where that starts? It starts with that Parks Committee.
Yeah.
And once that gets to the city council, it's pretty much the city council is going to defer to that Parks Committee who spent a lot of time thinking and looking at that. And so, one person volunteering 1 hour a month could have a 100-year impact on the city.
Yeah.
And so it really is easy to engage, and we're begging people to do it. And all you got to do is go click a link on the website, volunteer to sign up, and you can have huge impact.
And jump right in. Last one, Mayor, you mentioned water. I know that's been something keeping you up. What can, just if you don't mind giving folks just a quick thing, what's on your brain? Maybe folks can send you good graces and prayers for everybody else kind of out there to make that right call. What is the thing you weigh out every single night? Y'all are weighing out.
Yeah, so, I mean, we are in the middle of the biggest shift in the history of the state of Texas from a surface water economy to a groundwater economy in Central Texas. We essentially live in a semi-arid desert here in Central Texas that folks don't realize. Everything west of the fault line of 35 is basically a desert. And all of the surface water that you see in the state of Texas, other than the one or two natural lakes, are all man-made lakes, and all of that water is basically owned by the people of Texas. And so we built those reservoirs, and the government or governmental entities, river authorities, parcel out that water to all the different folks that need it up and down those river basins. All that water is essentially spoken for in Central Texas. The Colorado River Authority, the Brazos River Authority, they have contracts with all the different entities up and down those river authorities that need that water, and every drop of it is essentially spoken for. And so what that means is we have to find other sources of water. And that water is extremely cheap because it's owned by the people. It's the people built the reservoirs, and so the people own that water, and it gets doled out very cheaply by those governmental entities. Now, when we shift to a groundwater economy, we shift to basically groundwater's oil. And the folks that own it sell it like oil. And it's not where it's supposed to be. It is far away from us. And so this entire I-35 corridor that is just booming just happens to be where there is not a lot of good groundwater. And so the groundwater mainly is to the east of us, east and northeast of us. But fortunately, there's a lot of groundwater. There's 4 billion gallons of water in the Carrizo-Wilcox Aquifer that, depending on where you're at in the aquifer, it's 20 to 70 miles away from us, kind of depending on where you're at. So what we've got to do is we've got to figure out how to get that water over here, which is going to be expensive to do, and we got to buy it from the people that own it.
Yeah.
And so what we're in the process of doing is negotiating water agreements with those people to move that water from there to here for the next 100 years.
Is $4 billion a lot?
A lot.
Okay, that's a lot. I was just trying to get a scope
we
of.
use about 15 million as a state. So there's plenty of water. There's plenty of water. It's just a question of moving it where it needs to be, and it's we're obviously going to continue to conserve water. Conservation is number one thing that all of us can and will do, because remember, that water is going to be extremely expensive. There's no two ways about it. We got to move it. We got to buy it. And so you are going to change your habits in Central Texas. There's not going to be golf course lawns all over this region going forward. It's just not going to happen. And so conservation is going to be number one thing. And so that's going to happen. But then we're also going to have to bring more surplus water to this area. And so we'll get it here. And it's just a question of money and time. But you're going to see a major shift in our economy because of that.
Yeah, man. It's and that's not just Georgetown, right? It's all those towns that surround it, right? That's not just y'all.
It's everywhere from the Rio Grande Valley up to Dallas. Honestly, if you go down to the valley, they're facing the exact same issues, and it's everything on the 35 corridor coming north. The folks kind of between San Antonio and Austin have done a good job. San Antonio has done a good job of kind of getting some of that groundwater already. Everything north of Austin is struggling right now. We own the largest water service territory north of Austin. And so we're about to make our groundwater play and get that taken care of. That will take care of that region, for, like I said, for the next 100 years. But it's going to be a major shift, and we're hoping we get it right. As we said, my greatest fear is we're going to solve it with this very, very expensive solution, and then Elon's going to come up with some way to invent water out of thin air or something, and it's going to be free for everybody. But God bless him. I hope he does.
Yeah. Well, like you said, when and I hope if that every time comes, I hope it doesn't. I hope you guys make the best call you can. But if that time comes, if someone like you is sitting in that seat, I'm sure they'll go, we didn't make the right call at the time. This is what we're doing to fix it. So, yeah I think that's
absolutely
the way it goes. Mayor, man, so good to have you on.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. And thank you guys, everything y'all are doing for small businesses. Like I said, it is amazing to see how small businesses are growing and thriving in this country and in this state. And to have, folks that are help guiding them, leading them through is an amazing thing.
Yeah, man. It's when I think about the American dream, I was just telling somebody earlier today, there's many multiple versions of what that means. Kids are safe at school all the way to, you can have a paid-for house, whatever version of that is. But ownership is like a core American dream pillar, like owning something, and like you said, working for yourself. That level of agency and that level of just like, it's on your shoulders. It's American as it gets, and I'm so glad that right now we that current. We all feel like we're swimming with the current, but to your point, we still got to do it right. Like what you don't want to do is create a situation where you have, it is a particular person that is a good owner that gets in the right seat.
Yep.
And hearing combos like from folks like you about how you think about people, culture, weighing hard decisions, that is the backpack of an owner for the rest of the time that they own something. So we appreciate you coming on and sharing some of your wisdom and insight.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to the American Operator Podcast, where we celebrate the backbone of America, small business owners and operators like you. If you've enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe so you'll never miss out on more of these stories and insights from people who keep our community strong. Until next time, keep building, keep operating, and keep America moving forward.